we are going to hear from Arthur and Kellie Lupsha, and they're my cousins. In fact, you guys are all my cousins on this call. I love it. So I'm going to read your bio because I'll be honest, I didn't have a chance to memorize it, and I don't want to botch it up. But Kellie Lupsha studied at the University of Arizona for her bachelor's degree and at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester. I didn't know that. Minnesota for her master's in physical therapy. Arthur studied at San Francisco State and received his master's and doctoral degree from Western University. They both specialize in the recovery and treatment of neurological disorders, specifically sufferers of stroke and traumatic brain injury. And they've been doing this for over the past 20 years. Kellie and Arthur have their own private practice in Laguna Niguel, which is in California. I know that part. And they specialize in this treatment. Thank you guys, because I know you have helped so many people. I mean, they've helped people all over the United States. One thing I can tell you is they have huge hearts. And that's all you really need to know about Kellie and Arthur. They're beautiful people. They're building a very successful business. And I am very excited to turn the call over to you. So, Kellie and Arthur, take it away.
Thank you, Marcy. Thank you so much for hosting tonight and giving your time to the entire team. Thanks to Sean and Michelle Poe for running this on a weekly basis. Thanks to Stu Brody and Carrie Dickey. Maybe it should be Stu Dickey. Stu Brody and Carrie Dickey for being the incredible leaders they are. And I guess we also want to thank Stu for his clairvoyance and knowing that we are on our way to Pro 6. We're not there yet, but he did put out that we're Pro 6s. So apparently it's coming sooner than we realized.
Yeah, I'm going to give you guys an and so it is, right? Just
so it is.
I mean, whatever it is, you just got to put it out there as if it's already happened. So maybe that was a blessing in disguise. I'm seeing it.
It's coming. It's
Absolutely.
coming.
Thank you, Marcy. You guys, such a pleasure. And we're going to try to take 10 minutes here and be really concise. We've been asked to talk about NRF2 activation in relation to the brain, so that's what we're going to speak on. But we do feel it's vitally important for us to say that the Vitality Stack is truly everything these people need to be on in combination for their cellular health, for prevention of injuries to their brain, as well as recovery of their brain. So
and truly maintenance. I mean, to maintain a healthy brain and healthy brain function, the combination we have in Vitality Stack, a probiotic with a prebiotic included, because the gut is the second brain, and we do this over and over again. The megas, which are so important for cellular integrity, for brain health, eye health, heart health, and then NRF2 and NRF1. Again, crucial to good functioning, proper functioning brains, but we're going to talk specifically about NRF2 activation and why we see this being so vitally important for our patients with brain issues.
So you guys, I'm just going to start and walk you through a little pathway, and it may have happened to you or a family member or a friend. And think about, have you ever hit your head on something? Maybe you came up under a counter and smacked your head hard, right? Something like that. Or we didn't realize that something was there or we fell.
Happened to me just the other day. A cold morning outside, and the back of the car starts coming down all by itself, and I didn't realize, and I walked right into the back of the car. We all do those silly things, right?
So when that happens, imagine if that was your leg or your arm. What would you guys end up seeing on your body, right? You'd end up with a bruise.
A bruise.
Well, we just can't see what's going on in our brain, but that's actually really what happens. And you may have no symptoms of anything. Okay. And really have no idea. But then here's what happens is maybe you have something repeated, or maybe the next time it's hit even harder. Mm-hmm. So maybe you do end up with a little bit of a headache. Maybe you do end up feeling like a little just foggy or not clear. Maybe you end up with vision issues. There's so many things that could happen because symptoms of concussion are vast. They're vast.
And concussion truly is brain injury, guys.
Yes.
I mean, it's not something to be taken lightly or taken mildly. Anytime you're knocking your head, anytime you're having any kind of neurological symptoms after knocking your head, concussion is something that needs to be taken very, very seriously.
So from concussion, we're going to move into severe brain injury and stroke, but I want to back you up for just a second because, throughout medicine, I think all of us realize in our health journey that if something happens to us, medically, most of the time it can be fixed. through surgery, through medication, right? Through a hip replacement, through, you know, rehab of a sprained ankle. You can have a heart transplant. And a lot of times people wait till something happens and then we deal with it, right? There's not a lot of prevention, although that's, of course, exactly where we're leading this charge of nutrigenomics, is leading into prevention. So imagine this. You do have an injury to your brain, a traumatic brain injury, a stroke. There's no protocol to heal your brain. Like, there's no brain transplant. There's no simple fix. It is the most vital organ and delicate organ that we have.
I mean, truly, as Kellie said, you know, we understand the healing times and the repair times for every structure and every organ in the body. Every structure and every organ in your body could actually be replaced with one exception. The only thing we don't have the ability to transplant at this point is our brains. For that matter, I always tease our kids that actually their brains are far more valuable than ours because theirs haven't been used yet. You know, ours are really used. Theirs are really unused. No, just kidding. Yeah.
So, you know, with all of this, as we get into NRF2 activation, what we want you to understand is NRF2 activation is for protection of the brain, for all the cellular structures within the brain. It is critical to actually build that neuroprotection, and there's proof of that. So all of our kids, right, they're in sports. We have 4 children, and 2 of our 4 have ended up with concussions, not sport related, interestingly enough. So protecting their brain, so when an incident happens, they get hit, something, you know, whatever happens, their brain has the most protection possible. So whether it's our children, whether it's us today, from a concussion issue, it's going to be backwards, babe. Oh, yeah. And from a neurological degenerative disease, it is protection. And of course, after somebody has an insult of a brain injury or a stroke, critical for NRF2 protection. And I don't know if you guys know, but actually stroke is the leading cause of mortality and morbidity in the United States and has the biggest financial ramifications in the world. And so again, think about the power we all have that could lead to prevention from having people suffer from stroke and or protecting people hopefully from suffering from brain injury or concussion type symptoms.
The article that I was holding up here, guys, is from Molecular Neurobiology. This is in PubMed. And the title is NRF2 Weaves an Elaborate Network of Neuroprotection Against Stroke. So just imagine, the more you're activating that NRF2 protein in your bodies, the better job it's doing to actually build that protective barrier against having a stroke. It also, we know, builds a protective barrier against concussions, against head injury. And this is why our son, our own son, who is an avid football fanatic and plays for his high school, we said, okay, son, if you're going to play, we're going to do everything we can to protect you. And we bought him the best pads and we bought him the best helmet. But you know what? He's absolutely activating his NRF2 protein at the highest possible level we can.
Absolutely. And one other article, you guys, I just want to read just a quick abstract from. It's called Oxidative Stress and its Role in the Pathogenesis of Ischemic Stroke. But it talks about oxidative stress accumulates in patients that have had a stroke, okay? So oxidative stress accumulates due to the imbalance of pro-oxidants and antioxidants and consequent excess production of reactive oxygen species. So in all of us, we have a normal balance of our pro-oxidants and our antioxidants. But after somebody has suffered a stroke, they have a very strong imbalance, therefore leading to a much higher level of oxidative stress going on in their brain at that time.
And if we can try to make that super simple, basically what we're just saying is that due to the damage in the brain and cellular death after a stroke, there are chemicals given off in your brain that cause inflammation, that cause swelling, that cause more cellular death. And all that cellular death just junks up everything in your brain and sends your oxidative stress through the roof. It sends that rusting of your brain through the roof. And if you don't proactively knock that down and get it under control, things get worse, not better. And this is why in that first 24 to 72 hours after the initial stroke, we see patients actually get worse and worse and worse versus better. We call it the extension of the stroke.
Absolutely, you guys. So again, thank you. We only have 10 minutes. I just want to put out there to all of you guys that If you at all follow Sharice Matthews has an amazing interview with Arthur. You guys can pull that up for reference. It gives some great information. And then Jenny Crane, if any of you are Facebook friends with Jenny Crane, or you can just go follow her page or my page, because I put it on mine as well, Kellie Lupsha. She interviewed me and has a really great interview as well on the same topic.
Wow. Well, thank you guys so much. You know, I didn't give you the heads up I was going to ask you this, but I'm just wondering, like, in your experience, I hear everything that you just said from a scientific perspective, but as people lower their oxidative stress by activating the pathway, oops, Diane Smith, if you can please mute your line. If you could maybe share a story of one of your favorite stories of patients where you've actually seen like something change in someone's life when they start lowering their oxidative stress.
Let me tell you about our very, very first experience.
And let me just overview you guys that every single stroke is different. They present different. It's like crazy. There's no two alike.
Right.
And so the things that we've seen are vast, from decreased pain, increased sensation, increased movement, better cognitive focus,
changes
of course,
in speech patterns,
decreased spasticity. So we've seen lots of different stuff, but Arthur's going to share probably the most astounding result that we saw.
And we know Protandim is, products are not meant to cure,
prevent, mitigate anything. This is purely one person's anecdotal story.
Thanks for that, Mercy.
Yes. So we had a gentleman who was about a year and a half post-stroke when we met him. When we met him, he had no active movement in his right arm or right leg, and he couldn't speak. Over a 6-month period of time, I got his leg starting to work a little bit. He could start activating. I got him to the point where he could walk with me. Almost 2 years of therapy before we were introduced to Protandim. So at this point, he's 3.5 to 4 years post-stroke, when I had just learned about Protandim from Michael Epstein, our wonderful Michael Epstein. And I walked into the office, and at this point, I was only seeing this gentleman once a week. We had scaled back therapy all the way to just once a week, really just to keep things moving. And I had a routine with him, and my routine consisted of, he would come in, I'd get him on the table, we would stretch, and then we'd do some exercises where he'd be like pulling his leg down with a bungee cord, and then we'd do some walking, and he was walking about 50 feet with me, advancing his right foot every single time, and helping with his weight shift and helping him stand on his right leg. Well, we introduced him to Protandim. His wife takes one look at it and says, okay, we're going to take it. And in fact, if we're going to take it, we're going to be distributors. I thought, wow, this business is simple. First person I ever talked to.
That's fun.
Okay. Yeah, go figure. And he was a pretty big guy. I mean, he was about 6'2", 240 pounds, retired colonel from the Marine Corps Reserves and an educator in the athletic department at a university here. And so we started him right away on 2 a day. Now, Kellie and I did not see him for 2 weeks because the next week we were out of town, and so it was 2 weeks later. So nothing changed in his therapy intervention, nothing changed at all in his life except for adding 2 Protandim a day.
Nerve 2.
Nerve 2.
At the same time or different
One
time?
morning, one night. One morning, one night. The next time I saw him, I asked his wife, so how are things going? She just smiled. I said, okay. So we get him on the mat, we stretch him. I attach the bungee cords to his leg. And normally I would have to help him by helping him pull down. We get like 10 reps, then we'd rest and do another 10.
Yeah.
He starts slamming his foot on the mat. Not 10 times, not 20 times, 50 times. And then he did another 50 and another 50 and another 50. And at 250 repetitions, I finally said, okay, let's change gears. Let's stand up and walk. So I get him sitting up on the edge of the mat, and I help him stand. And Marcy, I was not even prepared, and he took a step forward with his right foot.
Wow.
First time ever he moves his right foot on his own. He walked the 50 feet across my gym, 50 feet back. I still had to help with weight shift. I still had to be there to protect his leg, so it was stay up. Over the course of the next 2 to 3 months, he started calling his wife by name for the first time in 4 years.
This gentleman was aphasic, so he could not talk.
Started telling her, I love you. He started singing the Marine Corps hymn tunes. He started navigating his own environment around his house.
And talking to his children on the phone, that he's never been able to have a conversation on the phone before.
We even got to the point where with help, he was actually starting to go up and down stairs. You know, unfortunately, about 7-8 months later, he passed away in his sleep at the age of 80.
Oh.
But completely peacefully. But his last 6-8 months of his life and his wife's life together was completely changed. And I truly believe because of these products, because nothing else was different.
That's awesome.